everyone, it's Sharona from Pair Weights, and today I'm going to be reviewing Lovecraft Country, Episode 8, Jiga Bobo. So, tonight's episode, or not tonight's episode, this came out yesterday. Yesterday's episode was actually directed by Misha Green. I believe this is like one of her first times directing television. I could be wrong, don't quote me on that, but I think that it was. And it was a lot happening in this episode. I will have to say that, you know, as like, I thought I saw one crazy thing after the next. I was like, oh, okay, like this ain't gonna top it. But then I was like, but wait a minute. Oh my God, Letty and Jiga. Then I was like, oh my goodness, but what's happening with the twins? It was just a lot going on. This is probably one of the first times since episode 3. I was actually scared to watch this at night. Literally when the twins popped out, I was just like, oh heck no. I should have watched this during the day. Like, what was I thinking sitting up here watching this at night by myself? So, and if you guys were in on the live last night, you know clearly the twins got to me because I was thinking people was breaking in my house and stuff last night as well. But I think for the purpose of the episode, I guess I do want to get into, actually, let's start the episode off with Dee. So this is the episode that we've been waiting on to get a little more backstory on Dee's character. But most importantly, a lot of people have been seeing the clues in regards to one of her best friends, Bobo, who was Emmett Till, who was actually murdered after taking a trip to visit family. He was murdered because a white woman claimed that he whistled at her. And so we see that the episode opens up and they're outside. They're at a funeral. It's hot. There's so many people, hundreds of people outside. And, you know, we see that people are walking out of the room, throwing up, crying. And for anyone that doesn't know about Emmett Till's murder, his murder was actually the catalyst for the second phase of the civil rights movement, which started the Montgomery bus boycotts. But because of the strength of his mother and actually choosing and forcing them to do a open casket funeral, is the fact that people could see how badly beaten and murdered like they did to this like young black boy, that is what really opened up people's eyes to what was truly happening, right? And so we see as people coming out, they look very traumatized after seeing his face. The people throwing up, it really adds more emotion behind what people actually saw during that open casket. And so we see that they're playing the song Cruel Summer by Bananarama, which I thought was actually a good choice for the song because, yes, it's very, the heat was cruel to them. The monsters have been cruel to them. And now they have been cruel to Emmett Till as well. So I thought it was a very interesting choice. But we see that they're kind of having this argument, right? So it's Ruby, Dee, Montrose, Letty, and Tick. And so Ruby is saying that she doesn't think that they should have brought Dee to the funeral, but Tick reminds her, like, if George was here, he would have wanted her to go to her best friend's funeral. But then we see, it's very interesting what Montrose says, and he says that it's every Negro's rite of passage in this country, child or not, right? To see the injustice that happens to black people in this country, to see the horrible and gruesome, you know, repercussions of racism, of prejudice, of what slavery did to our country, and to see how badly her best friend was beaten is something that unfortunately had to be ingrained into this young girl's mind. But most importantly, the fact that innocence is stolen so young, right? For black kids during that time, and even now, from the repercussions of us having to see what has happened to young black men and women who have been killed. So it really stuck to me what Montrose said to Dee, because it's something that you want to protect your child from. However, you can't protect your child from the reality of what the world is today. And I thought it was very important for Montrose to say that throughout in the beginning of the episode. But while they're having this whole conversation, somehow Dee ends up wandering off. So I'm just confused. This starts the whole episode where I was just like, so, like, none of you guys want to be parents right now. None of you guys want to be parental figures. Watch Dee, see where she's going. She's having a rough time. We know that they're still lying to her about her mother, talking about she's on a guide trip. And, you know, she's like, she would never miss his funeral. That's like, as soon as she heard it, she would have turned right back around and, you know, came to the funeral. So this doesn't make sense. And they're terrible liars. So everyone like, where did she go? Let me go find her. You know, Letty go one way, Tick go another way, but Tick's up here looking at his watch. I said, I'm sorry, excuse me, do you have somewhere to be? At first I thought that it wasn't Tick, and I thought Christina was doing something crazy and kidnapped Tick and acting like she was him, but we see that he was looking at his watch because later in the episode he does go to meet with Christina, which we'll talk about later. But I want to talk about the scene of her walking down the street. She sees the two girls playing and laughing, and they wave at her, and she throws a rock at them. She picks up rocks and throws it at them, and like there's nothing to laugh about, right? To really show the pain that Diana is really going through at this time, because she's lost her best friend. She's lost her youthful innocence to really like just be a kid in this world. So we see as she's walking that most of the stores, you know, it says closed for Emmett, closed. There's no one on the streets for real. Everyone is really at this funeral service to honor Emmett and Emmett's family. And so we see that she ends up walking down the street, and then she sees these cops pull up on her. They roll up on her, and then she walks in the alley, and I was like, Diana, what are you doing, girl? Like, why would you walk in the alley? Like, go into the street. I don't know if she felt that walking into the alley, she was going to be like, okay, let me just walk into the alley so they can't see me. Nothing's going to happen. But I was just like, sis, don't do that. So the raggedy officers come up, and this is probably one of the first times that I felt so uncomfortable to see spit in my life. All right, so they roll up on her. They pick up this comic, which made no sense. I'm like, so last week the comic was literally sitting in blood with the dead police officer when we saw that they when Hippolyta shot the officer, and at the end of the scene they show Diana's comic that says by Diana Freeman, and we see that it goes off. So we see that they found it. They go to find her. Obviously, they know magic. They start drawing like little stars on the ground. I'm like, what is they doing? And so we see that he ends up saying the spell. That spit, baby, let me tell you how the spit disrupted my spirit. It still disrupted my spirit because after 24 hours, I can still see the image vividly, the noise vividly in my ear. I can hear it right now, and then I can hear him slapping it on her forehead. Like, I wanted to jump through the screen and put the pause on him because I was just like, so first, what are you eating to have that amount of spit, that amount of mucus membrane into your spit for it to be like that? It really just, it still bothers me. I just need a moment of silence. Okay. So they end up doing the spell, and it's interesting because they see as she's kind of trying to get away from them, we see that she looks across in the alleyway. We see the cream of wheat sign, and then when they walk away and then she runs off, we see that the eyes of the poster actually follow her. So I was just like, you know what, sis, you are definitely in danger. I don't know what the heck these people did to you, but it isn't anything good. So we see they end up asking her questions like, where's her mom? She's like, I don't know. And then all of this stuff, they asking her about magic. And then we see that when she like finally gets away, she goes home and she finds Montrose yelling, asking where she been. And I'm like, sir, you already lied to her about her mama. So she started asking about her mama, where my mama at? And then she was like, I'm sick of y'all effing lying. I said, wow. So I know you going through a rough time right now, D. But baby, you are not about to be dropping no F-bombs. I might let you get away with a H-E double hockey stick or maybe a D word, but you sitting up here just giving F-bombs like it's okay? I was like, oh heck no. I was like, who, you gonna grab her or do I need to, Montrose? So then she goes slam the door. So he's sitting up here trying to give her a speech. I do like how he's trying to like, hey, obviously yelling at my child didn't work because you see how all of that turned out with our relationship. So let me try to do right by D, what George would do, have a conversation with her like, hey, I lost one of my best friends when I was young. I don't know if he was referencing back to the Tulsa riots, but really the Tulsa massacre. Let me stop saying riots, like white people didn't come but literally just burn a whole city down because black people were prospering. Yes. So, he ends up saying like, hey, like, you know what? You can't let white people take these things away. And if they are, like, you never give up without a fight. So she didn't turn the water on. She didn't turn the radio on. I'm just like, Montrose, I don't think sis listening to you. So we see a book by the name of Uncle Tom's Cabin, which was published in 1852, which was written by Harriet Beecher Stowe. And we see that this was actually, it's very interesting because if Emmett Till's death like really was the catalyst to begin the second phase of the civil rights movement, a lot of people say that Uncle Tom's Cabin was the book that really became the catalyst for the Civil War. And so we see that, you know, she's looking at the book and then all of a sudden she looked back, the book fell down and the book turned into a demon. It was a little girl with a demon. I was just like, I had a flashback to Tales in the Hood with the little dolls. That, baby, when I tell you I didn't sleep for weeks. I told my mom, I said, get all of these dolls up out of my house, okay? I know it's dolls, but I had to say dolls. But get all these dolls up out of my house. I ain't got time. I got to protect my energy. The Lord got me, but I don't need none of them in here. That's what it took me back to. I'm still traumatized from that in Tales from the Hood. But we see that the book ends up falling down. And then, baby, when I tell you she was gone, she hopped right out that window. And I said, Diana, you know what? I can't even bother you because it was just too much for me to really see these little crazy, like this figure, this little demon figure pop up. It was just too much for my spirit. It still bothers me. So we see that she ends up going to the train station. This is where we're introduced to these two. I call them little demon twins, okay? But I do want to give a shout out before I even get into how they disrupted my soul. Kaylin Harris and Bianca Bruton, who actually plays the twins, which is crazy because I actually thought they were little girls, okay? But they were so fantastic with the choreography that they're doing. The choreography was very reminiscent to, I like how they call it Jiga Bobo, because they were doing like little jig choreographies. And it's from the minstrel shows, which were shows that were created during the Jim Crow era. I think it was started in 1828. It was actually started by, in 1828 by Thomas Rice. And so essentially there were these variety shows that were done as entertainment where they're basically stereotyping blackface. They're, doing blackface of, black people essentially. And what I found interesting is when researching this is that it was actually more prominent for these shows had more popularity in the North rather than in the actual Jim Crow South. So, it's always interesting because a lot of people say, well, oh, it's the South. This doesn't take place in the South. This actually takes place in Chicago, in the Midwest. And a lot of people have this misconception about how the South was so racist. No, baby, the North and the South was racist, okay? Like, racism was all over. It was all over. It wasn't just in one region of the United States of America. So I just wanted to point that out. But I like how they kind of give the symbolism to these minstrel shows and really like how they could turn this, just make this thing that's so stereotypical that they do, and really led to a lot of the stereotypes that black people have in this country to this day about how they just turned into something so evil, so creepy. When she saw them little kids, when she saw the little evil twins, and it also, I saw someone said that when they saw their nails that they thought of me. I'm just going to take that as a compliment because I'm protecting my peace, okay? But I don't think my nails scare, okay? My nails don't just grow out and like attack people. So I just felt a certain type of way, but I'm going to take it as a compliment, boo. So I was shook. D was shook. Can't nobody else see what the heck is going on. So D looks crazy. She trying to get through and get away from the little kids. They just taking their sweet time, jigging and dancing. I was just like, it was too much for me. So we see that she ends up going home. And then like she's trying to talk to Letty, and Letty ain't got nothing to do with. She was like, oh, okay, your uncle in the house. I said, Letty, weren't y'all looking for her? Weren't you guys worried? Then D starts choking. I'm like, so you just gonna let her choke? And you gonna say, do you need some water? Why do you always say that? Anything happen, you could be bleeding. Do you need some water? You need some castor oil? Come on, let me give you some cod liver oil. You sitting up here doing all this choking and coughing like maybe something's trapped in my throat. I was just really confused by the whole, like, no one cared where the Chad, I can't even get this together. Like, literally the fear that they had at the beginning of the episode lasted for all of 2 minutes, and like they running into D throughout the course of this whole episode, and don't nobody care where she's been at this time. I was just highly confused by the lack of parental guidance or care or just effort even put into trying to look for Deanna, that's my sister's name, Diana, in the first place. I was just really confused by it. Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves. But we see that she ends up seeing the zombie girls behind Letty. She trying to tell Letty. Letty just disregards her. So she starts running. Then she discovers Hippolyta's car, Woody. So then that's when she also knows you guys are clearly lying to me. So she ends up going, like, walking around town because no one's really trying to find D like they said they were at the beginning of the episode. And so she sees that she ends up trying to go and follow. She's at the police station. I don't know how she doesn't hear the little zombie girls walking behind her doing a whole jig. Like, they need to go ahead and make a TikTok for the little zombie twins because they was getting it. I saw them doing like a little twerk move. I was like, okay, get it. Like, don't get Diana, but like get that dance. Okay, boo, I see y'all. Y'all still creepy. But we see that she ends up following Lancaster because she wants to get answers in regards to the spell that he put on her so she can stop seeing the twins. And so essentially he says like, hey, he will remove the spell, but she needs her to go get the orrery. And so she basically decides that she's not gonna do that, because she was like, my mama name is Greek as Hippolyta, and then she spit on him and cursed him out. I was like, D, I don't think it's the time. Like, yes, sis, spit back on him, do what you need to do, defend your mama name. But then I was just like, but sis, like, you need to get the spell out, so I don't understand why you're being disrespectful like this right now. And so he tells the other cop, like, don't worry about her, she's already dead. And we see that there's this like confidence that she has now, that Diana has decided to take her own life, her own destiny, like in her hands. Like, only she can protect herself. She can't depend on the little raggedy Lancaster cop. And I love how she said it stinks in here, because we're still trying to figure out where the heck this skin came from. If the man is still right in the closet, I still need answers for that, okay? So we see that we hear a speech actually by Naomi Wilder, which was a speech that was said to include young black girls into the narrative of school shootings. So this is one of the March for Our Lives in Washington, and it was a very powerful speech that was given. I love how they played this in the voiceover as Diana sees the little evil zombie twins, and she was just like, look, I don't care. I'm finna go past you. Like, I have to do what I have to do to make sure that I survive. And so I thought it was a very great montage, hearing that voiceover and seeing Dee have her confidence and really being fearless. I really love that. And so we see that towards the end of the episode, Dee ends up going back to actually the shop where Montrose ends up finding her. She tried, you know what? She tried to hit them. She tried to kill them. They was come back to life. You see how the other twin got upset because the one twin found her. I was just like, sis, like, I'm sure your other sis, your zombie sis gonna share with you, like, it's okay, but we really don't want you to hurt Ruby. But we see that Montrose, the only person who has cared for Ruby this entire episode, Ruby, who has cared for Dee this entire episode, he finds her, but we see these marks. She's bleeding. She's screaming. He can't see the twins, but she sees them. And I hate that he was holding her, because I was like, Montrose, I feel like because you holding her, the reason why they got her. But you see that there's like this almost like a virus that's kind of climbing into her skin, that we see basically the twin has gotten her. So we don't know what's going to happen with Dee. That's all that we really saw for that episode. But I really think that the actress who portrays Diana, she did so fantastic in this episode. I really wish that we did get to see a little bit more of her. I did feel as though that she had to share a lot of her screen time with the rest of her cast, because there's just so much that is happening throughout the course of this episode. But I thought she did a really fantastic job. But I do want to talk about Ruby and Christina, because Ruby and Christina, they have a very interesting, it was just very interesting, okay? So we see that Ruby is really having a hard time after the funeral, and she goes back to Christina house. And we see that basically the man asks her like what she's doing there, and then he was like, are you the maid? And she was like, I ain't no dang old maid. And I was like, sis, chill out. I know you feel a certain type of way, but we still can't be saying this in this little white neighborhood. So thank goodness that William comes, because you can tell, like, just, you felt the weight of the world on Ruby's shoulders. You felt the emotional exhaustion of being a black woman in a country that does not care about you, does not care about our youth. The fact that someone literally shot this boy, beat him, wrapped barbed wire around him, drowned him, like literally did all of these things based on a lie. Like the lady later said that it wasn't true what happened. It's just crazy. And to feel the weight of that, Wumi, who portrays Ruby, just did such a fantastic job with not even having to say the words, but you can literally feel the exhaustion, the pain, the fear that she had. And when William comes, there's a beautiful montage that happens as William is giving her a bath, like trying to take on a part of that weight from her. And then things get really weird, because she takes a potion, she turns to this white lady, Hillary, and then they smash, and then all of a sudden she like explodes and turns back into Ruby. So I was just really confused by the whole thing. I'm sure it's supposed to be something very beautiful, something very memorable. It was just something very just creepy to me after a certain point in time. I was like, in the beginning, I was like, I mean, I guess, but like, I just, and the way that like, it's like blood and stuff, I'm just like, ooh, honey, Jesus, take the wheel. I just couldn't take it. But they have an interesting conversation afterwards. And so Ruby asks Christina, like, she basically asks her, does she care about what happened to Emmett? Which I think is interesting, because it's like, it's weird, because when Christina is William, she has the compassion that Ruby needs. And I don't know if she feels as though that she can only give that to her when she's William per se. But when she basically, you know, turns back, she goes back to this cold-hearted person. And so she basically tells her about how, like, she felt bad for wanting to have the escape and taking this potion because she wanted the escape of not having to be black, or the fact that she felt safe because she wanted to be next to William to feel safe, while she had this internal conflict that she should be with her community, right? And, you know, Christina's just like, girl, you took that potion because you wanted to take that potion because you had the option to escape. You have the option to come here, to become this white woman, to not be Ruby. Like, that is the choice that you made because that is what you want. Like, that has nothing to do with anything that you're trying to say or trying to put the blame on me because I don't have a heart, but you knew I didn't have a heart when all of this started. You know, that's based on your decision making, which I thought was really interesting for her to kind of push back on Ruby instead of accepting what Ruby had to say to her. But we see that Christina ends up meeting with Tick. So the meeting that Christina had with Tick, his little dumb behind gives her the key to the orrery, right? In order to teach him a protection spell. So I like how he was like, I need you to teach me magic. She's like, why? And he was like, because it's my birthright. And I was like, sir, stop that. Stop saying that. And even she was just like, sir, you don't have the range, okay? The privilege that you had, you too black to be saying some mess like that. Like, that doesn't work for you. So he ends up giving her the key. Then when he asks her what happens on the equinox, she like stopped dead in her tracks, and then she basically says that she can achieve immortality. What she doesn't tell him is the fact that she's going to need to use his body to achieve immortality in the next 5 days is when all this is supposed to take place. So we see that also later in the episode. Then Letty goes to Christina and gives her the pages, the negatives to the pages Titus in exchange for protection for Atticus. Then she said, heck to the no, not telling Letty, like, I can't do that because I need to kill him in order to do what I'm trying to do with the pages of Titus. And then she gives her the mark of Cain, which is actually the same mark that we saw on William's chest during that steamy sex scene in episode 5. And we see that Letty makes a choice to protect her and her unborn child. I'm really confused with how Letty literally yelled at him for trusting her to give her the key to the orrery, and then you turn around and give her the pages to Titus, even though you're trying to protect your man. But I'm just like, y'all, Christina has proven time and time again she ain't ish. So I'm really confused as to why, like, everybody was just like, oh, hey, white devil lady, here, go ahead and take all this stuff you were trying to kill us for in all the previous episodes. Like, have it make sense for me, because I was confused. So we see towards the end of the episode that she ends up removing her vulnerability spell. I'm really struggling. In order to basically pay these guys to reenact what happened to Emmett Till, kill her, and then she basically came back after she re-added the spell. And I guess this is her way of trying to, that she might care for Ruby, and to try to see what it felt like to be Emmett Till. And we see that she ends up laughing, which I'm assuming for like devils is like what crying would be. I don't know. I just felt like maybe she was crying because she just like has no soul, but she's trying to have a soul. So I just feel like there's probably internal conflict on how one would react to a situation like that. But we do need to talk about Letty and Atticus. So Letty's pregnant at this point. She hasn't told Atticus, which I'm very confused as to why she hasn't told him. Maybe she just feel like there's so much going on. But we end up seeing that, you know, in the beginning of the episode, Tick is like, hey, you want some water? Like, you sure you want to be on your feet? You want to sit down? I was like, I think she told him. But then we realized towards the middle of the episode, she has not told him that she's pregnant. But they both are like speaking like without saying it, basically that they have a child. But neither one of them want to admit it to one another. So we see that when Atticus comes home, he sees G.I. shoes outside. And I said, oh, heck to the no. I wasn't expecting it for this episode to be happening. But baby, let me tell you, when I saw G.I. and I saw Letty at the table together, I said, where is Jerry Springer when you need him? Because this is about to be good. And when I thought that G.I. was being very petty, and you guys told me last night that she wasn't, but I thought that she was. G.I. sitting here like, so I'm a Kumiho girl. And basically, when your man climaxed, I was like, so you had to tell her that, like, not only did you have sex with her man, but I mean, he really wasn't your man, so I don't know why you was mad, Letty. But you had to tell her all of that when he climaxed. Like, I made him climax. I'm sure. I thought she was gonna be like, and when he moisturized me, I was gonna be like, gee, like it's fine. It's. I was like, Letty, you need to be leaping, okay, to beat her down. All right. But she didn't go that far. But I still thought she was being a little petty. I didn't think she needed to tell all of that about how when they climax, she could see their past, present, and future. And she said she saw her. Like, girl, I knew you was coming for you. Even knew you was coming. I was just like, wow, like, this was just too much. Letty was sitting there all calm, cool, but collected, and then she walked off. And I really didn't appreciate how Atticus is being such an F-boy these past couple of episodes. And he telling her what we had wasn't real, and you get the F up out of my house. I said, but Atticus, whose house? What job you got? What money you got? Okay, because all I seen is you've been taking care of Letty's Wall's house, but you ain't been taking care of no bills around here. I was just really confused. He was like, get the F up out of my house. I said, I would have had all my little nine tails come out and take care of them right then and there. Your house? Your house? After I spared your little raggedy life in Korea, you gonna sit up here and talk to me like that? I wish you would. Say it again, Atticus. Say it again. Say it again. I'll take you out right now. I just felt that he was very disrespectful for talking to her in that tone. I was just like, the audacity. I was just like, the privilege that you thought that you had. First of all, to be in somebody else's house that you don't own, that you don't pay no bills or contribute to, talking about get up out of my house? Honey, I was just like, it ain't enough abs, biceps, triceps, glutes in the world to make me let that slide. Baby. No, thank you. So we see that they end up getting into an argument where she was like, get your stuff and get out of my house. And then like 10 seconds later, she's like, hey, let's work on this together. Like, well, he actually is like, okay, I'm gonna make this right. And then I was just like, sis, you're giving conflicting like statements right now, actions of what to do. I was just really confused. And then that's when they get into the whole, like, I'm doing this for us, like to make sure we're protected. I'm like, so clearly y'all both know she's pregnant, but no one is gonna like address the elephant in the room. I was just like, but where is G.I. right now? Did she really get the F up out of his house? It's just a lot of questions that I have, but I know this isn't going to be the last that we have seen of her, because after she didn't travel all the way across the world and you gonna sit up here and be that raggedy to me? Trash, okay? Trash. So there would be no objectification of even though the photos were cute, the photos that Letty had when she's talking to Ruby and she tells Ruby that she was pregnant, it was cute. And it was like, hey, Sharana, we know we didn't give you no abs, triceps, biceps. Like, we know we didn't get that to you, but then you saw the photos, so you kind of saw it, but it was in black and white. I was like, you know what, y'all, I'll take that. But he being an F-boy, so I can't even enjoy it how I want to. But I do think the conversation between Ruby and Letty is very random. She's like, oh, hey, yeah, girl, sis. By the way, I know about all the magic stuff, and FYI, I've been living with Christina / William. Oh, and also, too, they gonna teach me magic. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And I was just like, can we rewind? Can we like expound upon that conversation? I did feel as though that whole conversation between them should have been a little bit longer. But we see that they are interrupted because the police come. They make up this thing like there's radical Nation of Islam. I was just like, the lies, okay? But then we see that there's a protection spell and Lancaster cannot actually go into the house. So they leave and I was like, oh, okay, well, that was pretty simple. But no, then they start shooting the whole house down. We start seeing the bullets bounce off of Letty. Letty was just sitting there and I was like, you know, in the movies when they're just like, when this movie starts or the show starts and there's like something crazy happening, they'd be like, I bet you're wondering how we got here today. I felt like that was going to happen. I was just like, guys, we should have started the episode off like this. But we see that she realizes that the spell has taken effect. And she's, you know, she just sitting there. Ruby got her head down. And Letty just like, I'm sick of this. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And then we see Atticus just walking around like, do. Like, it's just a great day in the neighborhood. Then he hears gunfire, sees that it's Letty's house, trying to go run to Letty. But then the cop said, freeze. Put your hands up. And then we see Letty run out. And I was like, well, clearly since Letty's running out, he's clearly about to get shot because that's just too obvious. And before he can do it, the little Shoggoth thing pops up and starts killing all police officers, even killed Raggedy Lancaster. So I don't know if we're ever going to get any answers as to who in the heck was in the closet, why they're wearing black men's skin, what in the heck was the spell that he put on Diana. I just don't know if we're going to get answers to this. But I was here for it. And they had like a little ET moment. He like put his hand out and a little thing put his head up on him. So I guess that was the protection spell. So we see that Montrose and Atticus, they have this conversation that was just very fast as well. Hey, did you ever cheat on my mom? No, I didn't cheat on your mom. I didn't do anything until after she died. And then he was like, oh, I got a kid. And he was like, what? And he was like, yeah, I got a kid. I went into the future looking for Hippolyta. And then this lady with a robot arm said, not you. Pushed me out, gave me a book. That's my son, George. I was just like, we didn't think we needed to expound upon that. I'm just like, so y'all just have this conversation like, yeah, I went into the future and like, yeah, just another day, gave me a book. It's my son. But I did think it was cool how they actually gave the timeline of Matt Ruff's novel, which is based off of, on how in the book, Christina is actually Caleb, a boy. D is actually Horace, who was a boy as well. How they changed some of these things up, and how Uncle George does not die in the book as he did in episode 2. I thought it was very interesting how he was just like, oh yeah, let's go ahead and tell you all the things that like didn't happen in the book that's happening in the show at this point. So now we have 3 different timelines, which is whatever the heck Tick did. We got Matt Ruff's novel, Misha's like storyline, the storyline that we're actually in, and whatever Tick did when he went, or I guess like what his son did in the future. And then I guess we have 4, because then it would be whatever Hippolyta did to make any changes as well. So I don't know what the heck is going to happen, but I did feel like because so much was happening in this episode, because even when they do the protection spell and then he realizes his dad is dyslexic, and it was just like, well, they told us he was dyslexic when you misread Arkham from Artem in the first episode. So I just thought it was cute though, and then at the end when he do the little spell with him and he like prayed. I'm just like, black people always try to do something knowing you doing all this magic. And I didn't even bring up how Letty and them was doing magic up in the sanctuary. Ought to be ashamed of yourselves doing all that magic up there in the sanctuary like that. I thought Christina was gonna burn into pieces when she walked into that church, but I was like, I guess she ain't a vampire. I guess the devils don't burn up when they walk into the church. But yeah, I felt like a lot of things were rushed. The whole meeting with G.I. was rushed to me. Ruby and Letty like basically telling her she's pregnant and like, oh yeah, I've been living with William / Christina and they're teaching me magic. That was rushed. The whole Tick going through time, and I don't think he made it through time, because I think the lady was just like, oh heck no, we let Hippolyta in, but you can come. So I don't know what's happening. I like this episode for what was happening, but I felt like there was a little too much happening. A lot of things got glossed over. We really lost sight of it being Dee's episode, and a lot of key moments I felt they should have had more time. They just didn't. But overall, I still enjoyed it. I just wish that things would have had more time to like breathe and maybe been introduced in other episodes, so we can kind of have that fleshing out moment to really give these moments the time that it needed to have with the audience. But I feel like that's it. Did I miss anything? That's really it, you guys. So yeah, those are pretty much my thoughts on Lovecraft Country, episode 8, Jiga Bobo. As always, my name is Sharona from Pay Your Weight. If you like what you saw today, make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, share this video with your friends, and make sure you hit the notification bell. And I love you guys 3000. And until I see you again,